Welcome back, everyone, to the Kenny Wallace Show, brought to you by JEGS. And as always, the leader in high performance aftermarket car parts. Remember to go to jegs.com. Well, we get lucky every time we do the Kenny conversation. And boy, are we really lucky this time. Joey Logano, two-time NASCAR Cup champion at 32 years old. That's incredible. Joey, welcome to the Kenny conversation.
I'm glad to be here, Kenny. I'm a little nervous about where this is going to go, but I'm a little excited as well. So let's have some fun.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Joey, I always tell everybody that it's healthy to have two or three of you inside you. So there's definitely two or three of me. I think the fun one that makes you a little nervous about me is the one maybe you see on TV. Uh, People want to be entertained, Joey.
You bring the entertainment. It's not even the one I see on TV. It's the social media account that I absolutely love. It's just straight out. The filter is non-existent for Kenny Wallace. I love it. I think everybody loves that. It's good stuff.
Yeah, well, I think if I was driving in the Cup Series right now, like you are, and I had a big sponsor like you do right now, I don't think you'd see that side of me. You know, 2015 was my last Xfinity race up in Iowa with Joe Gibbs. And I had a big sponsor, and I was still a little crazy, but I think you're going to see the real side of me today. And let's start out like that, Kenny conversation. Now you feel free to stop me anytime you want because we can throw audibles and go any way you would like. It just seems like yesterday you were, little Joey, sliced bread, and now all of a sudden I see on social media, I see you married, you're teaching your kids to ride go-karts. Tell me about that period right there where you were running and now all of a sudden you're married and you have, a wonderful family.
I mean, life changes, right? It's kind of crazy. I mean, you've been through it, but it's it's cool to, for one, grow up in the sport, right? And everybody kind of sees your growth pattern and how you've matured throughout your years, right? And it, for you, it might be a little different actually, because when you were 18, there wasn't social media and YouTube and where all this stuff lives forever. Now, my mistakes that I made when I was 18, they live forever on social media and on YouTube. So uh, it's changed a little bit for me, but yeah, I think when you think of, I started when I was 18 in the Xfinity Series and 19 in Cup, and you know, you're not only growing as a person, you're also growing as a race car driver in front of all these people, and that was always kind of challenging and interesting and fun. But as you get older, you start to figure out who you are, not only as a person but also as a driver, and you can you end up growing in multiple ways, right? You start growing as a driver, and then I got married to Brittany, and now three crazy kids run around the house.
Three.
Yeah,
Do we stop there because it's Earnhart or what?
I think it's a good idea. I think I made sure of it.
That's good stuff.
So yeah, it's been an adventure to say the least.
You bring up a good point. You are the youngest person we've had on Kenny Conversation, so you throw me on a different road. You throw me on a different pattern. You are the first person that had to grow up in front of social media. Are there things that you wanted to say, you wanted to do, but you can't do because of social media? Has it changed you?
No, no. Um, eh, Everybody's got a camera these days, right? So there
Oh
is
yeah,
that.
we talk about that.
So you got to be careful with what you say and what you do, but I don't feel like I have to change who I am because of it. Like this is because this is just kind of who I am. I don't think I'm edgy in some ways and there's some jokes out there, but I'm not saying things I shouldn't say. I feel like my morals are in the correct direction to where I don't have to worry about slipping up on something on social media and those type of things. The things that I worry about more than ever is just like when I was not that I'm smart now, but when I was dumber than I am.
You're wiser. You're very
Then,
wise. You're very
uh,
smart.
when I said things on TV when I was young, maybe something about Kevin Harvick's wife wearing a fire suit,
But that was
those things
awesome.
yeah, it was awesome, but now, like, my kids will see that and go, "Dad, what were you" like,
They'll say, "Dad's awesome."
yeah, "Why are you fighting people on pit road, Dad?" As I'm ready for those conversations to pop up one day and be like, "Yeah, well, might not have handled that one perfectly correct," but it's funny. Now, some of them were needed to happen, so it's okay, but, those conversations will happen that, most parents don't have to deal with that type of thing.
Talking about parents, I mean, we're just starting Kenny conversation, but does your children show interest in racing? Do you want them to race? How's that conversation going with Brittany right now?
Um, I don't and you could probably help me with this. So, my oldest Hudson, he is ate up with it, loves racing, loves
Yeah.
any wants to drive something every day I come home, "Let's go drive this, let's go drive this." Okay, let's go. Like I'm fine with it because I enjoy it and I have fun with it too. And he's a mini me. Like he is identical. I know what he's thinking the whole
That's
time.
awesome.
So he's our oldest. He's only 5, and I don't want to push him to go racing. Like I see other people really pushing their kids and like really making it like a job for them right off the bat. And I see that at these like little local go kart tracks that we go to, and I don't like that. I just think there's plenty of time to be a professional driver and that it's going to be a job. And I remember when I was a kid, my most favorite, most cherished memories of racing is when I was a kid because I showed up with my dad. He didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm.
He didn't race, so I didn't come from a racing family, and we just went and had fun. Like that's all it was about. And yeah, we won, and we didn't know why, but we were having a good time. And like I just remember those memories being just so special. And now when I go to kids races, I just see this intensity level that is just so high. And it's like that in all sports now. Right? It's just kind of how things go. But I just want to make sure it's fun. And so he's only 5. I didn't even start racing until I was 7. Um, so we really enjoy the backyard right now, just tearing that up, right? Just get a yard. We have a yard cart. He does that. We do have one of those little outlaw carts. Have you seen those outlaw carts that the kids race up at Millbridge?
I love
Um,
them.
yeah, that's fun. We went up there, uh, and it's to the point like we showed up at the back of my F-150. Like that's it. I had a tool bag. Someone had to help me unload the thing because I can't pick the thing up by myself. And it's just me and him, like, let's just go out there and have some fun. And I don't want it to be more than that for quite some time because I don't wanna wear him out for one. I wanna make sure it's fun, and I want him to have the same memories that I had. Right, and he's competitive enough that he wants to win and he's pushing hard out there, and I see that. I want to see him try hard. I want him to work on the car. I don't wanna pay somebody to take care of the car for us. Like, I want us to be able to do that stuff because I think the lessons learned in that is means more than the racing. The chances of making it in NASCAR, you know how it is. It's not
Mm.
very high. It's
Very
hard to
rare.
very rare to make it, but the lessons that you learn in kids sports will, I think, change your trajectory in life more than anything and teach you the things you need to know and teach you how to win and how to lose more importantly. And I want him to have all that for sure and teach him hard work and preparation and those type of things.
Yeah, you are wise beyond your years because this is what I really wanted to dive into at the start of Kenny conversation because your dad is a legendary, whether you know it or not,
Yeah.
because he loves you so much, and so does your mother, your sister, was a great ice skater. We all watched you. It was like you being prepared to be this great racer that you are right now. So, did you? We're on the same subject here. Did you grow up with this natural talent that you have? I mean, your car control is off the charts. It was when you were a child. So, did your dad teach you this? Where did this great car control, you know, early in your life come from?
I think just like in other sports, there's a certain level of God-given talent,
So
and
happy you said that. Do you
and then
have God-given talent? Yes.
yeah, absolutely. And everybody has some kind of talent. It's just if you're fortunate enough to discover it, right?
Mm,
Not
good
saying it's
point.
going to be in driving a race car. It might be in math. It might be
You didn't
in
go water skiing, you went racing.
right, right. I tried that. Don't have God-given talent
No
there.
good.
I didn't let's get
That's
that way.
funny.
but
That's funny.
but I think there's some ways that I just naturally picked up on things inside a race car. Now I say that, and when you get to the cup level, everybody has God-given talents, and there's some out there that have more than me, no doubt,
Mhm.
that are just better. And that's when work ethic and preparation and just being a student of the sport, trying to find an advantage comes into play. Um, where I like I said, I think I'm pretty good naturally, but
You're the
I'm not
best. You're a
naturally good
two-time
enough.
NASCAR champion, you're
I
incredible.
appreciate that, but I'm not naturally good enough to go out there and win two
Are you
championships.
saying you study?
I have to. I
Yeah.
have to. I feel like I have to work harder than other drivers to be good, just to be competitive, right? I mean, I look at the picture behind me, this one here,
Yeah.
when I drove the 20 car, right? If I had enough God-given talent, I wouldn't have got fired from that job. Okay. Right? Like
You
I
were
was
thrown to the
I
wolves,
wasn't
though.
good
You were
enough.
not ready.
Right. I wasn't ready because I wasn't good enough. Right? Like if I was that special, I would have just figured it right out.
Timing and circumstances.
Yeah, so, overall, it all worked out really well, and I learned a lot of lessons throughout all that, but that's when I realized I gotta go to work to, like, get better. I gotta really practice and work at my craft and the little details that make a really good race car driver.
So, there's always audibles. I always remind everybody that this conversation is not perfectly organized. Do you leave that picture behind you up there on purpose? I mean, that was your first cup win. We all remember it. Uh, you've won so much with Roger Penske. Is that why is that picture up there?
Well, I have other ones over here too. That's a Daytona.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
But
I
I
love
I
it.
that one, and so that was actually at Pocono, that wasn't New Hampshire, and
Oh,
I
it's
kinda see
Pocono.
that
Okay.
as my first win personally, because New Hampshire kinda came in a rain delay and kind of a weird thing,
Yeah.
uh, but that weekend there was one of the most stressful and most emotional weekends, I guess I could say I went through because that whole week going into it is where it became pretty public that Matt Kenseth was taking over the 20 car. I had a lot of questions about it. We happened to show up, put the thing on the pole, and race Mark Martin for the win, and that was my second win and the first time I won in 3 years. Uh, a and I was looking for a job, right? At that moment, I was like that was when I was thinking, "Will I be a race car driver anymore? What am I going to do?" Because all my eggs were in one basket. It was to be a race car driver since I was a little kid. And that was the moments in my life where I was like, "Uh-oh, I don't have a failed plan here," like, and it's about
This
to
is an
happen.
incredible story.
And so that was just so and, like, so that race, there's not a more important race in my career than that one right there. And it's probably not known to everyone. Everyone probably think championship weekends or getting into the championship 4, those type of things are larger, but those don't happen without that win there. So that's why I keep it up there, because it was a tough one. That
Thank
was
you.
kinda to me shows just the growth pattern that I needed to go through, the failures that I needed to go through to grow, and the mistakes I needed to make to grow, and it all kinda came to that moment right there that really changed my life, that gave me an opportunity at Penske.
This is something that children, teenagers need to hear because Joey Logano uh, is an incredible NASCAR Cup driver. He's looked up upon, and that picture, this was a turning point in your career. So you're thinking you set quick time, uh, you won the race right there at Pocono, and yet during this whole time, you're like, I'm fired. I don't have a job. And in your mind, you had to rule all that out. So the question bears, did you get this mental toughness from your mother, your father, grandma, grandpa? Because I feel like there's another conversation here in a little bit about that. How are you able to focus on that weekend, knowing that the guy coming for your seat, you're racing him, you're upset, you're hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Your
you
mom,
can't
your dad,
you can't hide from it, right? Probably my dad.
yeah, he's
Boy,
a badass.
my dad's a tough dude.
Yes,
Uh,
he is.
and I think you gotta try to compartmentalize things in your life, and you can't hide from it. It was happening, right? Like I couldn't run from it, couldn't hide from it. People were talking about it. It's coming up in every conversation. It just keeps happening. And it was happening, right? Like it's all true, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so you can't hide it from it, but then you also got to focus in and do the job, and you don't want to try too hard to where you wreck, right? Like you over try, and everyone's been part of that where you try too hard and then you end up putting too much pressure on yourself and you fail miserably, right? Like you
Your
don't want
maturity is showing up right now. Most
it.
kids that
Was
age wouldn't think like that.
Yeah, and sometimes you just gotta get in and just go do what you know how to do, and the timing of it was good. Obviously, I had a good car that weekend. Everything kinda worked out perfectly, but yeah, it was the hardest moments of my life, those 3 years there where I thought I drank the Kool-Aid, man. Like, I thought I was the man growing up. I was the youngest in everything, I was winning everything, and I was like, "Yeah, I am really, really good." And everyone was
And you
telling
were.
when you're 15, 16, and Mark Martin's saying you're the next thing to make it and you're coin sliced bread, and there was commercials before I made my first Xfinity start, just of me growing up and about, like, the the moment I'm gonna start my first race and how big it's gonna be. And then I won my 3rd Xfinity race in Kentucky, and I'm like, "Shoot, yeah, I am good." Like, I believe it, you know? And then I got to the cup level, and it was just like getting beat into the ground.
They're all
Boom.
really good.
And I never lost before. Like, I didn't even know how to lose. I didn't even know what it was about. And I was like, this is awful. And so getting through that, like, trench of learning how to lose, learning how to get better, really having to work on my craft because I never had to do that before. I didn't have to work on my craft before. I was just good. And then everybody else was good. And I'm like, oh, I suck. I got a lot of work to do. And so it's kind of accepting that and working at it. And it kind of eventually kind of coming to that moment there.
And this is the way the Kenny conversation goes. I'm finally going to get to my very first question. Uh, you know what I mean? Here we are. Here we are, 20 minutes into Kenny conversation. That's kind of where I wanted to start. So, in my mind, I remember everything about you. And you're right. It was Mark the Kid Martin out of Batesville, Arkansas, who was in your shoes. I'm a lot older than you, but Mark was a natural talent too. His dad, Julian Martin, is like, oh my God, Mark Martin wins everything at 12 and 13 years old, driving full blown big cars. And it was Mark that told us all. Mark Martin shouted it from the rooftops. There's this kid coming. His name is Joey Logano. Tell me about that time when Mark put you on the national radar. And we all said, "Who is he? Where's he at?" Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was a rain delay in Dover. And this is when Mark was retiring the first time. Right. It was like,
Yeah, right.
this is
You're
the first time.
retiring again?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they asked him if they could put anybody in his car, who would it be? And he said Joey Logano.
Wow.
I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
Obviously, I couldn't. Um, that same weekend, I was racing in Mansfield, Ohio in a Pro Cup car. I won the race. So it was the perfect timing of he made the comment, I won the race. It was like boom, boom. And then Kenny, you wouldn't believe it. I was getting phone calls to come drive a race car for Chip Ganassi, for Joe Gibbs, and Roush. I had
That's unbelievable.
three written contracts on my desk, and it was me and my dad reading through them saying, "What do we want to do?" This was not what you see today where people have to come to the table with money to drive a race car.
You
I
were
was
that talented.
I was getting paid at 15 years old to drive a race car. That's nuts in today's world. And so to think of I had these deals that were gonna I had 3 years before I can go racing. They were gonna pay for all my racing. I was gonna get paid while I was 15 years old to go racing. Then I'm gonna drive an Xfinity car and go right in the Cup the next year, and this is what I'm gonna get paid for the next 7 years. This is what it is. And I had 3 deals that were all the same just like that.
Do you think Mark Martin's voice helped that? Was it Mark Martin?
100%, 100%. Like,
Wow.
100%. You couldn't say it any other way, because people respected Mark Martin that much, right? Respect his opinion, what he stood for on the racetrack, how he raced. People respect that guy. And so when he said my name, it was like, this guy must know. And so that was like the turning point for me. And like I said, that's nuts to think that that can even happen. And so for me, the timing was perfect. That's when there was driver development programs going on where it was very important to develop the next driver, and everybody did that. And so people were looking, and I had the great opportunity. Joe Gibbs, I signed with them. They bought all our Pro Cup stuff. So they bought our trailer, our cars, everything. We moved into the Xfinity shop. That was a weird moment as we go rolling in with our, we had those renegade haulers, right? And we come in like, all right, where do we put our stuff?
The Beverly Hillbillies are coming to town.
We come in there like, well, we hit the garage door on the way in, so we really did it. So we're like, okay.
The things we remember.
Yeah. And like everyone's looking at us like, I don't think they all knew, like everyone in the Xfinity shop there at Gibbs knew like what was going on. They're like, well, who are these people? And what are they unloading a race car here and everything else they have? I'm like,
This is great. Nobody never knew this.
So it's just a pretty incredible thing when you think about it, and that I only had to race, with racing, you know how it is, right? You got to have somebody funding it, obviously,
Yeah.
especially as a kid, right? You're not getting sponsors that are doing this stuff. But I only had to do that till I was 15, right? I only had to race on my dad's dime, basically, until I was 15, which is just incredible today. So pretty special.
So I got to stay on this point just for a little bit longer. I go over to Tri-City Speedway in Granite City, Illinois, very close to the Worldwide Technology Raceway, where you were the inaugural winner. I go over there, and they got this kind of like this new USAC quarter midget deal, but it's called NASCAR Youth Series.
Yep.
And I go over and I see Danielle Fry, Jay Fry's wife, who runs the IndyCar League. I go over there, and Joey, there's 287 cars. There's motorhomes everywhere. And they said to me, hey, this is where Carson Hocevar really showed up with his talent. So with that from listening to your story and knowing that is where Carson started, he showed up really good in the Cup race. Do you think it's much harder to get in the Cup Series nowadays? Because obviously you got in with talent. Nowadays, you almost got to fund yourself to get into big cars, and you almost got to fund yourself to get into the Xfinity Series. Do you consider your timing and circumstances perfect, lucky?
Perfect. Only thing would be more better was if I started sooner, right? And I got there.
You could have got the money quicker.
Right? Exactly. But today, I mean, I hate to say it, it's a broken system. I hate to say it, but it is so challenging to make it because you gotta have cash. Not now. That's not everybody, right? Unless you got to be a standout. You got
Only
to be
99.9% of the people got to have money.
You better be ridiculously good today to get the opportunity that I had. And I mean, even today, Kenny, I can't go drive a truck without bringing money to the table, right?
Whoa, that's big.
I went and drove that truck at Bristol this year, I had to bring a significant amount of money to go drive it. You would think you win a couple cup championships that you can go drive whatever you want
They
whenever
could
you want.
sell you.
Right. It's like, well, they would want me in the car because I can help them, build their program. I have experience. I can, help us. Nope. Nope. I got to bring money to go race still. So
This
if
is unbelievable. I mean, to me, this is breaking news in the garage area.
no, this is true.
Needs
If
to
a
be said, though.
champion has to bring money to go racing, what does a 18-year-old kid, 19, 20-year-old kid that does not have a resume expect?
Unbelievable.
I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. Like to the point that like I don't know if I want my kid to
This
go race.
aggravates me. This
How are
upsets
we
me.
gonna do it? It upsets me too. And I don't know the fix either. It's too freaking expensive. And I think I think if you look at the lower levels, they're doing a great job at finding more efficient ways to go racing. If you look at quarter midgets, you brought that up. That's decent. Legends cars, late models. Some are way too expensive, but there's some local tracks that are doing it in a more efficient way. Dirt racing seems like one of the most efficient ways to go racing. Um, that's all good, but when you get to like ARCA, trucks, Xfinity, like the business model sucks.
You're bringing money.
Just sucks. Yep.
So it's true.
Now,
You
cup
pay
racing,
for it. You have to pay for it.
racing, you can do it, right? Like cup racing, the team owners, they can make money. And that's important. And then where if they can get a sponsor and pay a driver to drive their car, that's great. But there's not many racing series these days that can do that. And doesn't matter what your resume is, you're gonna have to pay to go play.
So, although this is a beautiful conversation because it bleeds the truth, it's like, wow, it is really true. Our two-time champion just said he went to run a truck race, and they said, "Well, you got any money?" That's unheard of.
I wanted to
So,
run more. I wanted to run more, but I couldn't find the money.
I'm
And I don't want to pay. I want someone else to pay for me to race. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I got to go find a sponsor to go drive a race car. Like, it's crazy.
and look at me. I just can't believe what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Wow, this is unbelievable. I'm looking at my notes because this conversation is very important to me because I feel like even though I'm much older than you, I'm I'm 60. I'll be 60 August 23rd. You're 32. I'm twice your age, but you've taught me life lessons. I look at your men. No, Joey, you're extremely smart. We're gonna change the course of this conversation now. So early in my racing career, uh, I never felt like I was talented enough to make enough money. And I said to myself, if I ever make money, I'm going to do my very best with it because I'm from Missouri. We're Missouri frugal. $10 is everything. So when I did make it to NASCAR, I started putting all my money away, and I bought some rental property, 12 rental homes. They they did good. They did really good actually because I cashed in, put that money in the stock market. So here's where we're going with this. I know for a fact that you are an incredible businessman. You are wise beyond your years. And I'm not going to tell the whole story, but you and I were involved in, there was talk about maybe you buying some of my property. I wanted to leave North Carolina. I wanted to come back home. But there's articles in the news right now about you. My mother-in-law, she pays attention to everything. She goes, Joey's involved in a business development in North Carolina. So where does that come from? I mean, you're doing it all. Do you got a little team there? Because you're
I have
incredible.
obviously
Well, that's okay. Tell us. Everybody got to have somebody. Tell us about this
absolutely.
business mind.
There's only so much I can do, and I have this little chip on my shoulder that I want to prove that I can make money not driving a race car.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
because I respect the hell out of people that have come from rags to riches. I respect them so much. And I tell those people all the time, I cheated in life. I said, if you're an athlete, like in ways,
You
yeah,
cheated.
you got a little unfair advantage in business.
You
for
drive
sure,
around in circles, they pay you a lot of money. Wow.
right? I mean, you throw a ball, you know, like, you get paid a lot of money to throw a ball, right? Like, it's and not only do you get paid to do that, the opportunities that come your way are priceless. The people, Kenny, you know it. Think about the people that you have in your phone number in your phone right now that you can just call.
Why?
CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. Just call them
Because
up.
you could drive in
They
circles
wanna
really
talk to me.
fast.
Yep, and they wanna talk to me. I hate wasting an opportunity. I hate that. Like, I have the most unfair advantage in life, and to not take advantage of that is the biggest waste of all time. And so and I don't know how long I'm gonna have that advantage, right? Because I can be not relevant tomorrow, right? But I'm relevant right now.
A
And
competitor's worst fear is what you just said. Will I win again?
right, 100%. And so the opportunities have come my way to do certain things, whether it's starting a studio down here, or doing this development deal that's on my plate right now. Um, Now it's important for me to prioritize things, right? And that's why I need people to help me because number one job is to go drive a race car. Well, number one job is to be a dad. That's number one job, and a husband. Number two job is to drive a race car and make sure I never fail at that. And then number 3 is just I like the side of it. It's my hobby. It's my hobby. I love learning about it. I love, the challenges that come along with it. And like I said, the chip on my shoulder of just wanting to prove to myself that I can be more than a race car driver, right?
Your
My
dad was. Your dad was very
Exactly.
smart.
My dad went rags to riches, and I respect the hell out of him for it, and I feel like I don't stack up in that department yet, and I wanna try to get there. My goal, this is the I set stupid goals in my mind. I
Yeah.
wanna make as much money outside of the race cars as I do in the race car. I wanna get to that point. That's my goal. And so that's what I work towards. So
I have to tell you something. I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to make you feel good. My brother Rusty told me something that I don't think he'll. I think it's a compliment to my brother. He owns 9 dealerships in Knoxville, Tennessee. He makes more money now than when he drove a race car. And I'm
yeah.
sure Roger Penske and Rick Hendrick. So that's your goal.
I wanna be able to do that, and in a way that I can there's a phase 2 in my life. There's a phase 2 in any athlete's life where you have you have this great success and things are going, right? And your earning potential is great, and then it's gonna go away, gone, just gone.
Yeah.
And if you don't have anything else, you will be depressed. There's
God, I
no
love
doubt in
that.
my mind. If you don't have something else lined up or other things to do and something to challenge your mind, you are gonna be a depressed person, and we've seen it so many times with other athletes that this is they're 100% in, and it's great to be 100% in, but if you don't have something else, when the day comes where you hang up your helmet or you're forced out of the sport, one or the other, you're gonna be depressed, and I don't want that feeling. I love the challenge, I love growth, and, so with that, and I know don't get me wrong, money's not everything, right? Like, family's number
Yeah, but it
1, and
solves a lot of problems.
it does help. It does help,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
foundation is a big piece to what we do as well, to where we're able to really help other kids and foster kids that have gone through a lot of different things and try to give them the opportunities to do what I'm doing, right? And
I
become
wanna
a
stop
contributor.
you right there. Hold on. I understand what you're trying to say. I want everybody to know that there are people that go, "Oh, he has money, but the Joey Logano Foundation, Joe, you give so much money away, you raise a lot of money. You're good. Tell me about that foundation."
Well, that's the why, right? Everyone's got to have the why of what you do, and we've talked about on your show here so far. We talked about winning races, and we talked about making money. None of those matter in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't. Um,
In
it's
life. Yeah,
to me,
life.
it's yeah, that's just a measurement and a goal to chase, but it doesn't impact somebody's life. It is temporary. It'll all be gone someday, and no one's going to care. No one's going to care who won the Daytona 500. No, or no one's going to care who won the championship in years down the road. It's just going to be a stat in a book, right? I was reading the 50th anniversary book, NASCAR, when I was a kid. My mom just gave it back to me. She kept it for some reason, but I
She
was reading
loves
it with
you.
my son the other day, and I'm reading some of these names that won champions. Some of them I've never even heard of, right? And I'm like, they were the man at one point. They were the man. Never heard
You
of them.
got it going on. You're thinking right.
Right? How crazy is that? So none of this even matters. So if you can impact somebody's life in a positive way, that's generational. That is how you continue a it really just make a difference, right? And so the foundation we started to do that. We've given away, I think it's over $6 million now, over the
Awesome.
last few years, and it's all for foster kids, foster families, kids that haven't been born into the best families, right? It's not their fault,
Yeah,
and
dealt a bad card.
just born into a crap family. I'm sorry, that's what it is, and there's a lot of people that are willing to invest their time to really help these kids, and it's incredible what these families are able to do, and we want to help support them. We want to help support the organizations that help place the kids, that help give these families the resources they need. Think about this. Think about just getting a phone call one day and saying, "Hey, we have these two siblings that they need somebody, and we're gonna drop them off today." Wait,
Wow.
what? What? Huh? What? This happens
That's
every single
big.
day, every day. And think about
Is
it.
that pressure, Joey? Is that pressure? Or are
Um,
you
No, no, it's not pressure. It's just what you're supposed to do,
right.
right? It's just
Yes.
what God calls you to do, and it's where we feel like my wife and I's hearts is with kids and families like that, and we work with organizations that give them the resources to do it even better.
Yeah, now I know why you're so good because you're mature beyond your years. But okay, so the reason I wanted to bring that up is because we all see and hear and we know everybody knows the right thing to do, but then they choose a different pattern. So, there's that thing, well, I'd rather be a good person than to have money. And that's not a fair statement. That's why I wanted to bring it up that your heart is in the right place. I believe you're doing all the right things. I believe that's your calling. But getting back to that challenge, you're a great race car driver. Now you want to do like your dad. And I agree with you. What we do, that's cheating. Oh, I hit a ball, so give me $22 million a year. You know, so go back into your business decisions right now. Where are you with that business development? Will it happen?
We are right on the very edge of it. It's all about the rezoning process right now, which I've learned a lot about, and meeting with a
Yeah.
lot of commissioners and all this stuff. It's been fun for me, right? I've been a race car driver my whole
Easements.
life. I'm
Taking
seeing
the
like
trash out.
the other side of the world a little bit, and I'm like,
I love this.
this is cool.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, I have a great team that's helping me with this stuff, but I'm involved a lot, and with the decisions at least on where we're going with things. And so, yeah, we're not doing. I think the article said it's like this $250 million project. Listen, I'm selling the land. I'm rezoning the land. I'm selling the land. We may build a couple buildings with that,
Yeah.
but there's some apartments along with some retail space, possible restaurants, and some other things. We'll probably move the studio on a part of the parcel as well. So just kind of building a little complex here. So it should be cool.
So, I want to talk about Roger Penske, but I do want to let everybody know that I came down there because I was invited to race in the SRX series. I'm going to race August 17th, Lucas Oil Speedway at Wheatland, Missouri. Now, with me laying that out, I was at your studio because SRX used your studio. Uh, I was like, my God, this Joey Logano's brilliant. We're literally in his studio, and Joey's renting it to SRX to use. That's another peek inside your mind. So tell me about that building. I mean, because it's on the corner of a very popular street. Tell me about that building you're in right now, the studio.
That's where I am right now. So we built this building as a toy box. So it was
Yeah,
supposed to
put all your toys in.
car
Yeah,
guy. I like old cars.
yeah.
I had a little collection, and then the back part of the shop, Bodine was building bobsleds. So it was like the bobsled part, and then there was a kind of my toy box, and then so it's kind of doing this. racing thing, and I'm doing all these photo shoots, and I'm going to these different places, and I'm like, these places aren't that nice. And I started looking around, and I'm like, all I got is like a cyc wall and some lights. Like, shoot, I have this. So I'm like, screw it. I'll spend a few bucks. I'll put this cyc wall up, right? It's just kind of the rounded edges on the bottom, right? That's kind of all it is. And then some
Yeah.
lights. I'll rent whatever else I need. And I'll do my shoots at my building with my sponsors, and the relationship could be better. And I can bring these people that are spending millions of dollars on a race car to a place that's beautiful.
Yeah, at
And
least you can bring your sponsors to your place, so you got a legit reason.
this is the unfair advantage that I have. I had the business before I had the business, but I had the customer before I had the business.
Mm.
And so I'm like, well, why wouldn't I do it? I'm not going to lose. I can't fail here because I already have the business. So
Yeah, you got your people.
I'm good.
I
So
love
it's
this.
solid. I got the building. I was like, well, just do my
But you're smart enough to recognize that it's
right,
a pattern.
right. And so we kind of started working on that, and like, okay, now that's really gone well. And then we opened it up to more, you know, stuff. And then obviously I'm very interwoven into the NASCAR industry. So we did doing a lot of NASCAR shoots, and that kind of steps out to doing other things, right? Lowe's is local here. We do a lot of shoots for them, and it just kind of keeps going. And it's like, well, I need a production team. Right now, I just renting a building. I want to go to the next level. So we just merged with a production team that we've used a lot. And so now we're kind of all, inclusive, can do everything, from the beginning to the end of a shoot. So it's been a fun ride learning about that stuff as well. So, but that's kind of what I'm saying, that the opportunity is sitting there in front of me. It was
Take
easy.
advantage of it.
How do you not do it? So
Yeah.
then it kind of grows its own legs and goes along. I probably could have grown it a lot quicker if I had more time and wanted to, but I kind of
Timing and
just
circumstance.
learn, and it kind of eventually came along.
So, we've already been talking for 43 minutes, but it's been really good. Uh, I want to talk about the great Roger Penske, your car owner. So, uh, when I was younger and I said my brother Rusty, it was kind of a bad thing because, oh, your brother, or your dad. But listen, we all got to have somebody. Rusty tells me, he says, Herman, I like to pattern myself after Roger Penske. And he just flat says it. And I know that's one of the reasons Rusty has 9 dealerships. And, it was Roger that taught Rusty, as far as dealerships go, you got to think big. Rusty tells me a lot. So I spilled my guts first just now to you. Does Roger Penske, do you ever reach out to him? I know it's all about competition right now. I understand that. But you cannot ignore that Roger Penske is one of the greatest businessmen in the world, not the United States.
Hmm.
Do you ever say, hey, Roger, have you ever said anything to him about business?
We've talked about it, obviously, and for a lot of reasons. Yeah, I want to learn and educate myself, but I also want to be educated on what he's doing, so I can help do my job better for him. But the best way to, I think, learn is to watch and, right, learn by
You don't want
example.
him to think you're worried about business. You want him to know
No,
you're
right, like, I'm
racing.
focused in on being a race car driver. Like,
Yeah.
that's my number one thing, and it is. Um, but it's not just that with him. Like, I watch about how he handles people, how he handles situations. Like, the guy has grown an incredible business the old-fashioned way, right?
Mm.
Think about what he does. He didn't come up with the new social media platform. He didn't come up with the something that's never been done before.
No shortcuts.
No shortcuts. He's done it old school, slow growth. We call it slow growth. It's obviously pretty accelerated, but he's never
Worth a couple
stopped growing.
$1 billion.
Yeah, he's never stopped growing, but he didn't, like, hit it out of nowhere and came up with something, and all of a sudden now he's got a couple Bs, right? Like, that's not how it worked for him. Dealerships, PTL, right? And then all the other things, like, he just kind of realized that, hey, I'm buying a lot of this. Well, I'll own part of that company if I'm buying a lot of it. And then he's got some great people around him. It's all interwoven into racing. and motorsports, which is his true passion. And it's really interesting to see it all come down. But the one thing I noticed about Roger that probably stands out is his memory is incredible.
Mm.
He's got the most incredible memory of not just things that have happened to him, but the people he meets. This guy would I've been with him and seen it do it. He'll walk into a dealership and know the salesperson, just one of the salespeople,
One of
know
his
their
80, yeah, like
yeah,
86 dealership.
one of his 70,000 employees.
Right. Oh my gosh.
He knows their name. He'll go into the repair shop and he'll go, "Hey, Jake, what's happening? How you been?" They're like, and I flew up with him, and I'm thinking he must have been studying all these names or something to know this stuff. Nope. He meets somebody one time and he knows their name. And I've heard this from so many people that work for him, and they're like, I don't know how he does it. He's got something special that allows him to do that. And when he takes that personal touch to the way he does things at such a professional level on top of it, it's untouchable. That's what makes him so great. That's what I've seen that makes him stand out so much is that he expects excellence and does so many things, yet he can somehow keep it all aligned in his brain. I don't know how he does it.
And we all know his story. Uh, Around your age, you're 32 years old right now. Around your age, he decides to quit being a race car driver. Roger Penske quits being a race car driver because his business is doing so good. And then he hires Mark Donohue and all these great race car drivers. To me, it's unbelievable listening to you talk like this. And Joey, look how great you are. Let me brag on you. You're 32 years old and you've already done it all. Now you're young, so you want to keep doing it all, but I put things into perspective. You're his age when he started doing business and you've already done it all.
Crazy.
Buddy, you got it going on right now.
Well,
That's pretty incredible. Because I know his history, obviously, because
yeah.
Rusty drove for him forever. Uh,
It can all end tomorrow, though.
yes.
You know
What
what I mean? It can just like that. I can wreck on the way home today. It
so
could be
so that leads to this. The new wave in NASCAR is drivers statistically like Tony Stewart, like Jeff Gordon, like Bobby Labonte, Jeff Burton, everybody, whether they had a choice or not, whether it was an injury or not, 42 years old. We're Harvick, 45. Uh, I'm not saying I don't want a number, but do you think everybody used to retire at 50? Do you think 40-ish is the new number?
it seems like it.
They're making more money. It's easier to squabble it away.
Maybe.
Tired of it? Too much?
I don't know what it'll be. It probably balance as much as anything.
It's not
But
important. I just wanted a conversation about the
yeah,
new era.
I don't know when that comes for me yet. It's not on my radar yet.
That's all
Um,
cool.
but in 5 years, maybe I have a different perspective, right? When your kids get older and you're starting to miss things, right? Maybe
Yeah.
your perspective changes. I don't know. Right now, it doesn't. Right now, I like going racing. I
Yeah.
want my kids to see me race. I want my kids to see me work, right? That's like the number one thing I learned from my dad is I watched him work. I watched him come home with grease on his pants every day. I watched
Mm.
him go out there and climb under trucks. He ran everywhere. I don't know why. He never walks. He runs
Well,
everywhere.
Rusty would tell us to run. Run. Get that night. Run.
Run. Right. And that's what I saw my old man do.
Me
And
and you have the
so
same memories. Why
that's
am I
it.
running?
But I want and I'm the idiot that I run everywhere too. I run through Penske all the time. People, "Where are you going?" I'm running.
Oh my
You
God, I love this.
know, like, what it is.
Go get a 916 trench. Hurry up,
But,
run.
like,
Why?
it's just I don't know. And so, I guess I want my kids to see that. I don't wanna retire so young that my kids don't get to see the example that I wanna set for them. So, I think there's part of that balance somewhere in there too.
I just want to say one last thing before we get to the end here. I think the reason we run everywhere is because there is nothing wrong with a sense of urgency because there is a great quote out there, a very philosophical quote that I think it was Kobe Bryant. The biggest mistake we can make is thinking we have time.
Mm,
Yeah,
that's
it's
pretty
it's
good.
not heavy. It's just maybe your dad ran everywhere because he felt a sense of urgency. And when I worked for Rusty, we're in a little shop. I mean, it's 10 o'clock at night. Go get me a 9/16 wrench, and I'd walk over, run. It's like, why?
Yeah. I think we both come from families that have a lot of energy.
Yeah,
It is. We don't sleep much. It's like, oh, keep going. So,
Joey, that was a quick 51 minutes, and now we come to the end of the show where we ask every single great race car driver. I don't expect you to know that Kenny Conversation started out with Tony Stewart, Mark Martin, Bobby Labonte, Kevin Harvick, the greats.
mm,
And we end the show like this. It's very respectful, but at one point or another, fans want your opinion. So we will not get you in trouble because I don't let any driver get in trouble. That's what Kenny Conversation is not about that. But we got to talk about NASCAR. And it's three questions. The first one is your thoughts on NASCAR today. What is your thoughts?
my thoughts are I like that we are trying new things, that we are going to new places, new venues. We saw it in St. Louis, where you are now, where we just were. Huge success. We saw it at LA Coliseum, things we never thought we would do. Huge success. Uh, Road America was a big success. Going to new tracks, new venues, going to tracks one time, I think is where we need to be, and making every race an event. And I don't think there's many tracks that did it better than St. Louis this weekend, but they do a great job. So I think as far as a sport going to different places, we are doing great.
I like that. Okay, so the next one is the next gen car. This new car. Now, I want to make you feel comfortable and let you know that all the other great drivers, all the other champions before you, they have told me their real opinion. Uh, the next gen car. What are your thoughts on this new style race car that is now in NASCAR?
Um, it's different. Uh, it's,
That was funny too.
it's like there's pros and cons to it, like everything else. But it has changed the way we've raced. It changes the way we set up a car. It changes the way we practice the car, or what we can and can't do right during practices. It changes the way we evolve a race car from building parts to now we buy parts. Um, that's changed everything. Some of it good, right? Some of it in a good way, if because it's brought new ownership into the sport, new interest into the sport. There's also the old school part of me that really loved practice and really loved like the creativity that of building a new car and coming up with new crazy things that are way
You
outside the box.
cannot gain an edge is what you're this car
Can't
you cannot gain an edge.
can't I miss that part, but at the same time, I'm not getting beat by much these days either, right? Like it's really it's like it's the decisions you make on the car and the decisions you make behind the wheel. That's it. No one's got a better part than me, right? Like maybe a manufacturer may be ahead of one or the other, here and there. But we got the same chassis, we have the same springs that we can all buy. We got like all the same parts and pieces we can all be part of, right? Engines and aero are some of the pieces we can't really touch on a whole bunch and can't affect, but everything else we can. So the way you call the race, the way uh, you set up a car and you work out your team and pick stops and all that stuff matters so much more now. So it's just changed the way we raced. Um, Part of me misses the old school way. Part of me really loves the new way, and it, just what it is. So
Yeah.
I think it's okay. It's just different.
So we know the last question here, conversation. Uh, we know that this next gen car the competition is so tight now that it makes the drivers drive hard, get loose, slam up into each other. Fist fights are breaking out. In the meanwhile, the TV ratings are going up. The interest in our sport is going up. So, with that being said, the last question conversation fines and penalties. What are your thoughts on the unbelievable $250,000 fines and driver suspensions? Chase Elliott, you cannot race this week. What are your thoughts of this unprecedented penalties and fines?
Has to happen.
Mhm.
Has to happen. It has to happen. Uh, we need somebody to protect us from ourselves and somebody to officiate the sport. It has to happen. You can't let the prisoners run the prison. Right?
Good point. Yeah, good
You
point.
right. If you let us all have at it, right, from building a race car, we're all going to keep pushing the limits because it's competition, and we're going to keep going and going and going and going and going. Somebody's got to rein us back in, and there has to be a penalty big enough to make you say, "Oh, don't do that." Like that's a year ender, right? Like you can't afford to do that. Um, I feel like NASCAR's done a pretty good job at that. The other piece that needs to happen is there needs to be consistency. You can't have a penalty one week and not the next week, and then the next week you do, and the next week you don't. Like if it's wrong and you penalize somebody, the next time it happens, you have to do it again. Have to. And they've seemed to have done a pretty good job at that. Um, I don't know if any officiating of any sport bats 1,000 at this one, right? Like whether it's football, baseball, they're gonna miss a call every now and again, right? And NASCAR is probably no different. That you're gonna miss a call every now and again, right? Restart might not look as good as it needs to, and somebody might get away with one, or a pit stop, right? Something might been an uncontrolled tire and they got away with it, or they didn't, right? Like there's going to be some balls and strike calls there. But when there's blatantly obvious things that all of us see and know, you better make a call, and it better be the same as the last time you did it. And so I think NASCAR has done that, and it has to continue. They have to do that. I do think the racing is getting harder and harder because all the cars are going the same speed. They're all the same. And so you can't afford to let somebody go anymore like we used to and expect to get that back. Can't. I
You
give
got
up.
you got to race the stage point.
Yeah, I got stages. I got stage points to get. And if I let somebody go, I'm probably not going to pass them back later. Like, and it's possible. It's very possible that hey, I may not have the fastest car today, but if I get in the lead, they're not passing me. So I can't give up a spot. And then the guy trying to pass me gets pissed off because he can't get around me. And then you're mad because the guy hit you. Like it's just the whole thing. So you just it's the thing. That's what it is.
You really bring up a good point. You got my mind wandering because years ago, Harry Gant would say, you're back there for 10th or 12th, and Harry would say, boy, we're not racing each other. We're racing that leader. Let me go. We're holding each other up. And nowadays, with the stage racing, you're rewarded points for a top 10. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't let people go.
Everybody. You're racing them all. Yeah.
Joey, you are absolutely incredible. And I'm going to tell you, when I feel strongly, I tell people the way I feel. I've been trying to get you on this show for a month and a half because I know I know this is going to sound weird, but I really relate with you because we're not conflicted. You and I are not conflicted, but you did not disappoint me because we are cheating in life. You mean to tell me I'm going to get paid to drive a race car?
Yeah.
What? I got my first paycheck when I was, I don't know, I was 20 something years old I was a crew chief in the Cup Series. But Joe, you've been wonderful. You've made me better. I want to thank you and everybody for deciding to do the Kenny conversation. You're a good man.
Well, thank you, Kenny. And I appreciate that you keep giving back to our sport. Because if it wasn't for this isn't an old man joke, by the way, but if it wasn't for the previous generation still caring about the sport, there's no next gen of anything, right? Not next gen car, next gen NASCAR, next gen motorsports of any kind, because people like you that have stuck around in our sport and then just take and leave. So many do that, but you were involved with the sport as a driver, and now you're still involved with the sport, whether it's from this and still talking to our fans and helping them transition to the next generation of racers. That is what continues the sport and continues it to grow for the next one. So for people like you is the reason why I'm here. And so thank you for that. And hopefully I can be that person for the next generation.
And touche, brother. I like it when you and Kevin Harvick get up in the TV booth on Saturdays. So, okay,
Fun.
that's it. I want to thank you so much. Remember, everybody, we'd love to remind you that we're in podcast form. This was a long conversation. You can start it, get to work, and listen to it on the way back to home. We're in podcast form. Tune into Spotify, iTunes, and until the next one, we just keep bringing up the champions, the winners, and we'll see you all next time.